privacy on. It's being displayed to tourists during the off-season. Many of these engines were failed biofusion experiments and were too ill to work or were already dead. They had to put a stop to that though.
With all accidents happening, everyone started asking the same thing. Why had Thomas, the first engine, worked so well?
Despite all the troubles the other engines had, Thomas had worked fine, seemingly oblivious to the other engines' problems and accidents. Keeping their problems a secret from the outside world, Sodor Research began selling the technology to other countries in multi-million-pound deals. These countries would have less qualms about the use of fuel engines, and even the modern electric trains. Even failed biofused engines were being displayed publicly in what would become a kind of freak show. To his horror, Professor Hans Goetze saw what this was leading to, slavery of engines, and immediately resigned. His father, Wilhelm, would go one step further.
ไม่ต้องยุ่งมันเดี๋ยวมันพังเร็วพ่อด่าอีกก็จะทำเรียกแม่ไปช่วยกดเดี๋ยวมันเจ็บนิ้วเขาจะไม่ลูก
นะกดเลยกดเป็นเร็วแม่แม่คะพยายามทำได้ไหมคะ
เดี๋ยวจะทำวันหนึ่งไปทำบอกวันละ1 ขวดนะ
กลัวจะเจ็บนิ้วกดแล้วมันไม่เป็นไรใช่ไหมบอกเลยเป็นไม่เป็นไรหรอก
Professor Wilhelm couldn't come to terms with what was happening to his engines, and took the only course he thought he could take.
That fat got a load of us rail staff over to his house to clean up after the body was taken away. You should have seen it. Sawdust everywhere. It took us days.
But such attempts to keep the incidents on Sodor a secret were short-lived. After a very public accident.
Gordon paid an enormous amount to be Sodor's first 462 configuration engine. Much bigger than any other engine at the time. We were terrified that fat shite would make us fire up that huge engine.
We were shocked to discover he had insisted on being able to work on the railway. So, one night, after the regular staff had finished for the day, Fat some of the rail staff and I fired up the engine. As usual, these experiments were filmed. This footage has never been broadcast before.
Dr. Ruth and I filmed it all.
It might be a bit shaky. It was handheld. At first, Gordon complained about the heat. Then that turned to pleas to douse the fire.
But that fat bastard held us back. He wanted to see what would happen.
He argued he had put a lot of work into Gordon, and the chances to get him working were too great an opportunity. He was literally cooking from the inside. By the time we were allowed to act, it was too late.
I wasn't as near to him as some of them. All I could do was run. I was lucky to get away with some singed clothes. Others weren't so lucky.
The fateful few hours following the accident would seal the fate of Sodor Research. The fat stopped us trying to put out the fire, insisting that any evidence would fall back on us.
He kept repeating, this was all your fault, you knew the dangers, you're legally to blame. He stopped us calling for ambulances or
ดู
the
เวทแปลว่าอะไรครับดูเว
We
ทแปล
told
ว่าอะไร
him
ครับ
there's injured people here. They're going to die unless we do something. But he kept saying, no one from the outside can come in. No one can see this.
Finally, someone suggested we airlift them to hospital.